History remembers the tanks and bombers of the Second World War, but in 1939, the SS developed a strategy to dismantle the British Empire using nothing more than paper. The plan relied on the mechanics of hyperinflation. If German bombers dropped 30 billion counterfeit pounds over London, the sudden surge of cash would devalue the currency to zero. Trade would stop, and the economy would cease to function. The target of this economic strike was the Bank of England's white fiver. It was a massive banknote with a design that had remained virtually unchanged since 1855. Bank officials were convinced their currency could not be replicated. This reliance on a century-old design created the specific vulnerability the Nazi regime intended to exploit. SS Major Bernhard Krüger realized regular soldiers lacked the technical skill for a perfect forgery. He went to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp and selected 142 Jewish prisoners, master engravers, artists, and bankers, from the death blocks. Krüger gave the prisoners a specific ultimatum: successfully replicate the British pound for better living conditions or face immediate execution. The prisoners understood the lethal logic of the assignment. The moment they produced a perfect counterfeit, they would no longer be useful to the SS and would likely be sent to the gas chambers. To stay alive, they had to achieve the technical brilliance the SS demanded, but work at a pace that delayed the completion of the project. The first technical hurdle was the paper. After months of analysis, the prisoners realized the British did not use clean linen for their pulp. They used dirty, industrially washed rags. Freshly printed notes were too conspicuous, so the prisoners simulated years of wear and tear. They formed long lines, passing each note from hand to hand and rubbing it with dirt to mimic the texture of currency in circulation. Replicating the engraving required isolating over 150 microscopic flaws hidden within the Britannia vignette, intentional defects used to identify forgeries. Finally, the team spent months reverse engineering the serial numbers mathematical algorithm to ensure every printed note passed ledger inspection. Once the paper, engraving, and serial codes were mastered, the prisoners had produced a forgery so accurate that the Bank of England's own experts could not tell them apart from genuine notes. By the time the prisoners had printed over 134 million pounds, the war had shifted. The Luftwaffe had lost air superiority and could no longer fly the massive payload of notes over London. Krüger abandoned the plan to bomb the economy. Instead, the SS used the stockpiles of counterfeit currency to fund their global intelligence network. The forged notes were used to pay elite spies like Cicero for British secrets and to finance high-risk military operations, such as the raid to rescue the Italian leader Benito Mussolini. The counterfeit currency became a shadow bankroll, providing the Nazi war machine with the assets it needed to continue operations in the final years of the war. In 1945, as Allied forces entered Germany, the SS moved to destroy all evidence of Operation Bernhard. Soldiers packed the millions of remaining forgeries and the Naster printing plates into wooden crates. The crates were transported to the Austrian Alps and dumped into the freezing waters of Lake Toplitz. The 142 prisoners survived through a fortunate delay. The SS guards had received execution orders, but they hesitated over the specific bureaucratic phrasing, allowing the U.S. Army to reach the camp first. The prisoners outlasted the Nazi regime by utilizing the same technical precision and attention to detail that had been forced upon them. The operation eventually resurfaced. Years after the war, divers recovered the crates from the lake bed, finding thousands of pristine counterfeit notes still intact. When the Bank of England inspected the recovered notes, they realized their primary security measures had been entirely compromised. The bank immediately halted production of the white fiver and withdrew every banknote larger than £5 from public circulation. Operation Bernhard failed to trigger a British economic collapse, but the work of the 142 prisoners exposed the vulnerability of currency that hadn't changed in nearly a century, forcing the adoption of the high security features used in every modern banknote.